Welcome to Learning Wind. How are you all? I hope you all are doing fine. Today in this video, we will study the second chapter of biology for class 9th, tissues. But before starting the chapter, I would like you all to recall the last chapter we studied, which was cell. From that chapter, we know that cell is the structural and functional unit of life. But are all cells same? No. We know that depending upon organ and organisms, structure and functions of cells vary. For instance, RBCs are spherical, neurons are elongated. Similarly, the size of the ostrich edge is different to that of the other cells. Therefore, we can say that all the cells possess different structure and they have different functions. In single cellular organisms, only one cell is sufficient to perform all the activities. But in multicellular organisms, millions and billions of cells are required. The cells, which are structurally and functionally similar to each other, forms a group. This group of cells is called as tissues. The term tissue was given by a French anatomist and pathologist named Bichet in the year 1972. As I have already told you, in biology, we have to know various terms. One such term is histology. Histology is formed by the combination of two terms. One is histose and second one is logos. The meaning of histose is tissues and the meaning of logos is a study. So we can say that the study of morphology and the functions of tissues is called as histology. The most important thing which you have to remember is that the term histology was coined by Mayer in the year 1890. Marie-Francois Xavier Bichet, he was the person who coined the term tissues for the first time, and that's why he was called as the father of histology. One of the interesting thing about him is that at that time microscopes were not there. Still, he managed to distinguish 21 types of elementary tissues. Marcello Malpighi is considered as founder of histology. We have to keep in mind the fact that the father of histology is Xavier Bichet, whereas the founder of histology is Marcello Malpighi. Tissues play very important role for living organisms. As cells have many organelles which are specified to a particular function and division of labor is seen in them, similarly, tissues has also brought about a division of labor in multicellular organisms. We have seen that cells form tissues, tissues form organs and organs form organ system. In this way, a whole multicellular organism can be formed. Now imagine, if only one cell has to perform all the functions of a body, there will be so much workload on a single cell. But due to the formation of tissues, the workload has decreased to a great extent. Due to the improved organization and higher efficiency, multicellular organisms have higher survival. This chapter is divided into two parts, plant tissues and animal tissue. It means that plants and animals must have different types of tissues. Why is it so? The reason is simple. Plants cannot move, whereas animals can move in search of food and habitat. So the energy requirements are also different. In plants, dead supportive tissues are more abundant as compared to living tissues. Whereas in multicellular animals, living tissues are more common as compared to dead ones. Plants require less maintenance energy, whereas the requirement of maintenance energy is higher in animals. There is a differentiation of meristematic and permanent tissues in plant tissues, and no such differentiation is found in animal tissues. Due to the activity of meristematic tissues, plants continue to grow throughout their life. But animals do not show growth after reaching maturity. Only reparative growth can be seen. The organization of plant tissue is very simple, whereas the organization in animal tissues is complex with the development of more specialized and localized organs and organ systems. The tissue organization in plants is meant for stationary habits of plants because the plants are always stationary, they cannot move. Whereas the tissues organization is targeted towards higher mobility of animals because animals move in search of food and shelter. In this video, we will only discuss plant tissues. Plant tissue can broadly be classified into two types. One is meristematic tissues and second one is permanent tissues. Meristematic tissues are the tissues which continuously divides and helps in increasing length and girth of the plant. These cells of meristematic tissues are similar in structure and have thin cellulose cell wall. They may be spherical, oval, polygonal, rectangular in shape. As you can see in this picture, these cells are compactly arranged and no intercellular spaces are present between them. Each cell of meristematic tissue contains dense or abundant cytoplasm and a single large nucleus. So these are the few characteristics of meristematic tissues. Meristematic tissues are further classified into three types. First one is apical tissues. Apical tissues are present at the tips of the plant parts and help in increasing the height of the plant. The second one is lateral tissues. Lateral tissues are present below bark, cambium, in vascular bundles of dicot stems and roots. And the third type of meristematic tissues is intercalary. Intercalary meristems are located at the base of leaves or internodes. Meristematic tissues play so many functions. They act as a parent tissue from which other tissues develop. These tissues take part in growth by formation of new cells. With the help of meristems, plants continue to produce new leaves, branches of stems, roots, flowers, fruits and root hairs. The place of injury in plants is healed up by the formation of new cells or meristems. Plant shoots, lodged or bent by wind, are made to grow upright by activity of intercalary meristems. From this picture, it will be more clear to you all. Here, at the apex of root, stems and leaf, apical meristem tissues are present. The intercalary meristems are present at here, the internodes of the new branches as well as the leaves. Whereas the lateral tissues are found somewhere here. Second type of plant tissue is permanent tissue. Cells derived from division of meristematic tissues take up a specific role and loses the ability to divide. Hence, they become permanent and are called as permanent tissues. Permanent tissues are again divided into two types. First one is simple tissues. Simple tissue is further classified into Parenchymma, Collenchyma and the last is Sclerenchyma. The second type of permanent tissue is complex tissues. Complex tissue is further divided into two types. The first one is Xylem and the second one is Phloem. Simple tissues, as its name suggests, are simple. It means they are made up of only one type of cell. All the cells are structurally and functionally similar to each other. The first type of simple tissue is parenchyma. Parenchyma has been made by two Greek words. First one is para and second is enchyma. Para means beside and enchyma means infilling. It means that these tissues are mostly present behind other tissues or fill the gap between different tissues. Parenchyma cells are living and possesses the power of division. These cells are rounded or isodiametric. The term isodiametric means something which is equally expanded on all the sides. Iso means same. So the cells which are equally expanded on all the sides are called as isodiametric. The cells of these type of tissues are oval, rounded, polygonal or elongated in shape. The cell wall is thin and encloses a dense cytoplasm which contains a small nucleus and surrounds a large central vacuole. It is clear from the picture that intercellular spaces are also present between these cells and these spaces are abundant. So many spaces you can see in this picture. If we talk about the occurrence of parenchymatous tissue, These tissues are widely distributed in plant bodies such as stems, roots, leaves, flowers and fruits. Thus, the parenchyma tissue is found in the soft parts of the plant such as cortex of root, ground tissues in stems, mesophyll of leaves. It is also distributed in pith, medullary rays and packing tissue in xylem and phloem. If we talk about the functions of parenchymatous tissue, there are so many functions. It serves as a packaging tissue to fill the spaces between other tissues and maintain the shape and firmness of the plant due to its turgid cells. And due to the turgidity property, parenchyma acts as a primary support in the stem of herbaceous plants. It also stores and assimilates food and it serves as food storage tissue. It also helps in transport of materials. Parenchyma cells are metabolically active. Their intercellular spaces allow gaseous exchange. These tissues store waste products of plants such as tannin, gums, crystals, resins or inorganic wastes, etc. If chlorophyll is present in these tissues, they can perform photosynthesis, hence called as Sclerenchyma. In some aquatic plants, due to the presence of many pores between the cells of tissues, air accumulation takes place and hence the plant becomes lighter and able to float. In xerophytes, it acts as water storage tissue. So there are so many functions of parenchymatous tissues, but these three you have to keep in mind, okay? Now the second type of simple permanent tissue is Collenchyma. Collenchyma term has been originated from a Greek term which is colla. Colla means glue. Collenchymatous tissues are also consist of living cells. It is quite similar with parenchyma, but is characterized by the deposition of extracellulose at the corner of the cells. In Collenchyma, the cells are arranged in a way so that the intercellular spaces are absent in them. Collenchyma cells are elongated in shape and they often contain a few chloroplasts. If we talk about the occurrence of collenchymatous tissues, so these tissues are located below the epidermis of dicotyledonous stem and petioles. These cells also occur in midribs of dicot leaves. They are absent in monocot stems, roots and leaves. Now let's see what are the functions of collenchymatous tissues. It is a mechanical tissue in dicot stems and provide mechanical support and elasticity. Thus, collenchyma provides tensile strength with flexibility to those organs in which it is found. It allows easy bending in various parts of plant leaves or stems without actually breaking it. One of the different feature of collenchymatous tissues than the other tissues that if it contains some chloroplast, then it is able to manufacture sugar and some starch also. So this is one of the important aspects of collenchymatous tissue which you have to keep in mind. Now let's come to the last type of simple permanent tissue which is Sclerenchyma. The Sclerenchyma has also originated from a Greek term which is sclerus, and sclerus means heart. These sclerenchymatous tissues are dead cells. We have seen that parenchyma and collenchyma, they both were living, whereas the sclerenchymatous tissues are hard and they are dead cells and they are devoid of protoplasm. The cell walls of sclerenchyma are greatly thickened of lignin. Such cell walls are called as lignified cell walls. Due to excessive thickening of sclerenchyma cell wall, its cell cavity or lumen becomes nearly absent. It means that you cannot see the lumen. These cells of sclerenchyma are closely packed without intercellular spaces. As you can see in the picture also, no intercellular spaces are present between the cell. If this is one cell, this is one cell, this is one cell, this is one cell, then between these two cells, you cannot see any type of air spaces. Thus, these cells are fitted together like tiles of a mosaic floor. A conspicuous middle lamella exists between two sclerenchymatous cells. Middle lamella is a thin layer of cementing substance containing pectin, lignin and protein. It occurs between cell walls of two adjacent plant cells. If this is one plant cell and this is one plant cell, then middle lamella is present here somewhere between two plant cells. Okay? Now, sclerenchymatous tissues are again further divided into two types. The first one is fibers and the second one is scleretes. The cells present in fibrous tissues are long, narrow, thick and lignified. The length of the cells varies from 1 mm to 550 mm depending upon the plant where it is situated. The fibers are usually pointed at both ends. In this picture you can see that this is somewhat elongated and both the ends are jointed towards each other. This end is jointed and this end is also jointed. So this is the longitudinal section. Whereas when you see these cells in transverse section, they somewhat look like polygonal in shape. The second type of sclerenchymatous tissues is scleretes. They are also called as grid cells or stone cells. They are found in so many shapes. They can be spherical, oval, cylindrical, T-shaped in structure or dumbbell shaped. There are so many shapes in which scleretes can be found. These tissues are dead and develop in various parts of the plants such as cortex, pith, phloem, heart seeds, etc. Wherever you are finding the hard covering of plant, you can say that this is a sclerenchymatous tissue. Often oblique thin areas are found in thick walls of both fibers and a sclerete called pits. So you can see that here these structures here you can see are called as pits. These are oblique thin areas which are found between the thick walls of fibers and scleretes. Now, if we talk about the occurrence of sclerenchymatous tissues, so these tissues occur in abundance either in patches or definite layers. They are found in stems, roots, veins of leaves, hard coverings of seeds and nuts. Scleretes form a gritty part of most of the ripe fruits and contribute hardness to the seed coat and nut shells. Husk of coconut is made of sclerenchymatous tissues. It is present in mesocarp of fruit of coconut and yield coir, a well-known fiber. The paint brushes or the toothbrushes which you use, which do not use plastics in them, most of them are made up of sclerenchymatous tissues. And the hard covering of plant parts are also made up of sclerenchymatous tissues. The sclerenchyma is mainly mechanical and protective in function. It gives strength, rigidity, flexibility and elasticity to the plant body. Now here the simple type of permanent tissues has been completed. Now let's move on to the next type of plant tissue, which is complex permanent tissue. It is just the opposite of simple permanent tissue. Simple permanent tissues were those tissues which are made up of only one type of cell. Whereas the complex permanent tissues are those tissues which are made up of more than one type of cell. So there are so many cells when combined together and starts performing similar kind of function, then you can say that these are complex type of permanent tissues. So the complex tissues consist of more than one type of cells having common origin. All these cells coordinate to perform a common function. Complex tissues transport water, mineral, salts and food materials to various parts of the plant body. And basically the complex tissues are of two types, xylem and phloem. Xylem is also called as wood and phloem is also called as bast. Let's first of all discuss the first type of complex permanent tissue, which is xylem. The xylem term is also came from a Greek word which is xylos, and xylos means wood. Xylem is a vascular and mechanical tissue. In other words, it is conducting tissue. Xylem is composed of cells of four different types. First one is tracheids, second vessels, third xylem parenchyma and fourth xylem sclerenchyma. So there are four types of xylem tissues: tracheids, vessels, xylem parenchyma and xylem sclerenchyma. Except xylem parenchyma, all other xylem elements are dead and bounded by thick lignified walls. Of these four types of cells of xylem, most important cells are vessels. Vessels are shorter and wider than scleretes. Vessels are very long tube structures formed by a row of cells placed end to end. It means that the end of the one cell is the beginning of the another cell. Then the end of that cell will be the beginning of the another cell. So in this way, the end-to-end arrangement can be seen. The transverse walls between the vessel elements are partially or completely dissolved to form continuous channels or water pipes. Tracheids are elongated cells with tapering ends. They also conduct water. Since tracheids do not have open ends like vessels, so that water has to pass from cell to cell via the pits. Xylem parenchyma stores food and helps in lateral conduction of water. Here you can see the structure of tracheids and xylem parenchyma. Now let's come to the function of xylem tissues. The main function of xylem is to carry water and mineral salts upward from root to different parts of the shoot. This is the major function of xylem tissue. Other than this, since walls of tracheids, vessels and sclerenchyma of xylem are lignified with lignin, so they give mechanical strength to the plant body also. Now we have arrived to our last type of plant tissue and the last type of complex permanent tissue, which is phloem. Phloem again came from a Greek word which is phlo and which means bark. Like xylem, phloem contains tubes but performs no mechanical function. Phloem is composed of following four types of elements or cells. First one is sieve tubes, second is companion cells, phloem parenchyma and phloem fibers. Phloem parenchyma and phloem fibers, they both are similar to xylem parenchyma and xylem fibers. Only difference is that in xylem, tracheids and vessels are there, and in phloem, sieve tubes and companion cells are there. So you have to remember only these two terms. These two can be memorized easily, okay? And one more thing you have to keep in mind is that only phloem fibers are dead. Other than phloem fibers, all these cells are living. It means parenchyma, companion cells and sieve tubes, they all are living tissues. Only phloem fiber is dead tissue. The main function of phloem is to transfer the food materials. We know that food is prepared photosynthetically inside leaves because they contain chlorophyll in them. But other parts of the plants also require that food to fulfill their energy requirements. So the phloem transports food materials from leaves to storage organs and later from storage organs to growing regions of the plant body. So this is the main function of phloem. Now we have completed the plant tissue part. We have discussed so many tissues, their structure, their occurrence, their nature and their function. You have to keep in mind all these names, their meanings, their nature, their structure and everything. Before ending the class, I would like to take a quick revision of all the tissues we have discussed so far. First of all, we know that plant tissue is broadly classified into meristematic tissues and permanent tissues. Meristematic tissues are those tissues which continuously divides. Permanent tissues are the tissues which stops dividing after some time. Meristematic tissues are divided into apical, intercalary and lateral. Apical are present at the tips of roots and shoots. They helps in the growth and the height of the plant parts. Intercalary meristems are present at the nodes and internodes of the plant. Lateral meristem tissues are present at the sideways of the bark. It helps in the growth of the width of the plant, right? Now, the permanent tissue is again divided into two types, simple permanent tissue and complex permanent tissue. Simple permanent tissues are those tissues in which only one type of cell is present, whereas in complex tissues, more than one type of cells are present. Now, the simple tissue is again divided into three types. First one is parenchyma, collenchyma and sclerenchyma. Parenchyma and collenchyma both are living tissues. Sclerenchyma is dead. Parenchyma, again depending upon the presence of chlorophyll or air sacs, it is again further divided into two types. Erenchyma if air sacs are present and chlorenchyma if chlorophyll is present. Then sclerenchyma is also divided into two types, sclerenchyma fibers and sclerids. Then complex tissue, the tissues which are made by more than one type of cell, they are of two types, xylem and phloem. Xylem is composed of four types of cells. We know that vessels, tracheids, xylem parenchyma and xylem fibers. Similarly, phloem tissues are also composed of four types of cells, sieve tubes, companion cells, phloem parenchyma and phloem fibers. So in this way we have completed the whole plant tissue. I hope this much part has been clear to you, and if you have any doubts you can ask me anytime. So this is all for today. We will meet in our next video where we will discuss the types of animal tissues. Till then, keep learning, be happy, stay safe and healthy. Bye bye.